Hello there, I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now, whether you want to explore brave new flavors or maybe stock up on some familiar comfort foods, our city has got you covered. This is Our Vancouver. Coming up, take your meat eating to the next level with some deep cuts at Straight and Marrow. And how COVID-19 is driving up interest in homeschooling. But first, bringing the best of Granville Island right to your door. The pandemic has just changed so much of our daily lives, like shopping at Granville Island or going on a tour. That has certainly halted some businesses, but it has inspired the creation of new ones to help us adapt. Michelle Ng is the founder of Vancouver Foodie Tours. That business is now on hold, but now Michelle has launched the Granville Island Delivery Company. Michelle, hello there.
Hi, Gloria. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you. What is Granville Island Delivery?
Yes, absolutely. So Granville Island Delivery Co. is a one-stop shop where locals can shop from multiple Granville Island merchants all at the same time and have it all delivered in one order to doorsteps across the Lower Mainland.
I see. They choose the products, you don't put them together for them?
Well, you can do either. Yeah, we've got curated bundles where I've selected my favorite products from Granville Island, and so they can choose those bundles, or they can also build their own as well.
So how did all of this come about, the business idea in the first place?
Absolutely. So in mid-March, we had to pause our original business, Vancouver Foodie Tours. And a couple of days later, I just thought to myself, how can we continue to add value to the community, make it easier for people to stay at home, provide an additional revenue stream for Granville Island businesses, and also bring back some jobs to our team members whom we've unfortunately had to lay off.
Yeah, it's been tough times for so many people. Okay, so I see you've got some packages there with you now, that things you could enjoy maybe on a road trip or give to someone as a gift or gift yourself, I guess. So what have you got for us today?
Yes, absolutely. So what we've got here, we've got the September market box that I have put together. These are seasonal products that are available during the month of September. We've also listened to our customer as far as what they would like to enjoy this month. So first of all, we've got from the stock market the basil tomato soup, which pairs beautifully with a buttery brioche from Bread Affair. You can shave some of the fruity Piave cheese from Benson Brothers onto the soup. You can wrap up your meal with some award-winning salted caramels from Chocolates, the garlic pepper cashews from the Nut Merchant, and some freshly picked new crop apples as well from Number One Orchards. This makes a really great meal, and you're supporting so many merchants at the same time.
Wow, that's a wonderful package. Wonderful. Okay, and what about on your other side? What have you got?
Yeah. And I just actually wanted to tell you about this custom-made mask that we've got here from Make. It's a mask that we've created to support our new campaign called #Granville Island Love. And it's a way for us to raise funds to struggling Granville Island merchants because we donate $5 of every bundle we sell. And the same goes for what I've got on this side as well. It's wellness in a pack. And we built this with wellness in mind. We've got from Cascadia Soap Company an extra nourishing hand and body salve, an exfoliating French lavender scrub, as well as a much coveted, much needed hand sanitizer from the Healing Bees, as well as Chilliwack Honey's wildflower honey to keep your throat nourished during the fall season. Last but not least, we've got Granville Island Tea Company's Masala Chai, which is like a really warming drink for the fall and a popular product they offer as well, all of which is packaged beautifully in this hand-woven baskets wrapped in cellophane and beautiful ribbons as well.
Wow, that looks like it's good for the body and for the soul, and perhaps for the bottom line as well. I mean, what difference have you made, has this business made for individual businesses?
Yes, we've had amazing feedback from our vendors. They're so appreciative of the additional online revenue stream that we've created for them. Many are small mom and pop shops that just don't have a way to quickly switch in an online platform. For example, the Bread Affair have really appreciated the wonderful social media exposure, as well as the press that we've enjoyed over the last couple of months. Chocolatas also don't have a great online system where people can just buy and have products shipped to their home. And so they're really relying on us to drive sales to them during the key chocolate season months, such as the holidays coming up.
Well, I was going to say, I'll bet you have ideas for future curated baskets as well as the months continue and we're still in COVID.
Absolutely, yes. The holiday season will be a big one for us and for all the Granville Island merchants here. We're going to be creating lots of really wonderful Christmas gift ideas, including DIY donuts, towers. We've got chocolate platters, cheese platters from Benson Brothers. Really, all the seasonal products that you would normally want to come to the market for to celebrate the holidays. We'll have that ready for you on our website.
Nice. It sounds like the next best thing to visiting the market in person. Michelle, thank you very much.
Thank you, Gloria.
Hello, my name is Nogol, and this is Our Vancouver.
All right, it's time for one of our favorite features of this program. This is when we get to showcase some of the photographs sent in by you, our audience. To kick things off, Catherine Cordoni got this rare insider's look of Stanley Park's 9 o'clock gun from the man who fires it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Catherine. Deborah Burlkamp snapped this amazing rainbow over Pender Harbor from her boat. Wow, that's a beauty. And finally, Danielle Willman was having some fun with her friend Yvonne Sue at the Chilliwack Sunflower Festival. Thank you so much for spreading some smiles. And do send us more. You can email your photographs to us. It's easy, bcphotos@cbc.ca, bcphotos@cbc.ca. Well, Ottawa has spent billions of dollars during this pandemic under a lot of public scrutiny. But CBC News has learned details about one little publicized program, renting hotel rooms to help certain travelers quarantine. The CBC's Tara Carmen explains.
After spending 10 years in Peru, when COVID-19 hit, Jeff Govro knew he needed to get home. In early April, he landed at Toronto's Pearson Airport, unsure where he could safely spend his first 2 weeks.
My father's nearly 90 years old, and my brother-in-law's a medical professional, so I couldn't stay there.
He says quarantine officers whisked him by private shuttle to a hotel 10 minutes away. A nurse showed him up to his room, and that's where he stayed for 14 days.
There was one person that was kind of going stir-crazy down the hall. He wasn't taking it too well, going in quarantine.
Govro says he was given 3 meals a day, twice daily health checkups, all paid for by the federal government. CBC News has learned Govro is in fact one of more than 3,000 people Ottawa has put up across the country since the pandemic hit, paying a tab that by the end of July had already topped $37 million. According to the Public Health Agency of Canada, there are 11 designated hotel quarantine sites across the country. Ottawa won't say which hotels for privacy reasons. Earlier this week, more than 250 people were being quarantined in rooms scattered across the country at Ottawa's expense.
Hey guys, this is Vijay.
Vijay Alawadi was put up in a room after arriving in Canada as a permanent resident from India.
Yes guys, it's really good. The food is really good.
He took video of his stay and knows it may raise questions for some about why taxpayers are on the hook.
I will be paying taxes to the government. End of the day, everyone will pay taxes to the government.
It's not known how much was budgeted or if there's a hard end date. But as long as the 14-day quarantine law is in place for arrivals, the government is still offering help for those in a bind. Though it's stressing, the hotel rooms are only a last resort for people who truly have no other options. Tara Carmen, CBC News, Vancouver.
Coming up, what happens when 2 tropical cyclones merge? Johanna Wagstaff answers that question and explains what the Fujiwara effect is.
It's an extremely rare event, but every once in a while, two cyclones will pass close enough to each other to enact the Fujiwara effect. The effect is named after Sakuhei Fujiwara, the Japanese meteorologist who initially described this interaction. So what does it look like? Well, most of the time it looks more like a dance, because storms will most always have winds spinning in the same direction around a center of low pressure. So when they get near enough to each other, they begin an intense dance around their common center. This scenario is what happens most of the time when we get two systems getting this close, spinning around each other for a little while before shooting off on their own paths. Now, if one hurricane is a lot stronger than the other, the smaller one will orbit it and eventually come crashing into its vortex to be absorbed by the bigger one. And yes, in very rare occasions, the effect is additive when the hurricanes come together, resulting in one larger storm instead of the two smaller ones. Typically, extratropical cyclones, or the good old low pressure systems that bring us our storms here in Canada, engage in this binary interaction when they're within 2,000 kilometers of one another, while tropical cyclones typically interact closer to 1,400 kilometers. And we did indeed come very close to a Fujiwara effect in the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, with early forecast models for Tropical Storm Marco and Tropical Storm Laura crossing paths over the Gulf of Mexico. Now, in the end, they didn't quite get close enough to each other, but that didn't mean they weren't just as impactful. And now you're Science Smart. If you have a science question on your mind, send me a tweet and I'll try to get it answered.
Johanna, thank you very much. Welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now, interest in homeschooling and distributed learning is soaring in BC. Many parents are concerned about sending their kids back to class during the pandemic. As Jesse Johnston reports, Facebook groups and websites and blogs that deal with learning at home are getting record traffic.
For Carolina Okolu, the decision to educate her 3 children at home was an easy one. She loves the freedom and how her kids can learn at their own pace.
If one of your kids wants to go very fast, you can allow them to. And if somebody's going a little bit slower, you can give them time, and eventually it all evens out.
She's figured out a balance that fits her kids' education into their everyday home life, and it's paid off.
We've been able to go out, see friends, or we skied every day all winter. We're able to do a lot of stuff, and yet we're still able to be ahead in our grades. We're able to work sometimes maybe earlier in the morning or later in the day.
Now, many other parents are wondering if they can do the same. With so much uncertainty about sending kids back to school during the pandemic, interest in homeschooling and distance learning programs has skyrocketed.
We're running like chickens with our heads cut off.
Homeschool Canada, which provides materials and information about learning at home, has never been so busy.
We've had orders left, right, and center. We've had emails, phone calls. We're on a number of homeschool Facebook groups, and the number of people that have joined the groups and, thrown into homeschooling, please help kind of posts. It's hours a day just keeping up with all of those.
And this homeschooling author, podcaster, and blogger says her web traffic has gone through the roof since the province announced its back-to-school plan.
Genuinely, the numbers are about 1,000% increase on my Facebook page, and it was almost 200% or maybe 267% on my blog.
The Okolus say the best advice for a family new to educating children at home is to relax. It's not easy, but there are many benefits they wouldn't trade, like learning entrepreneurship.
We love knitting, right, Denny?
Yeah.
So
Hannah and Daniela run a knitting business together, and they never have to worry about finding the time between class to manage it. Jesse Johnston, CBC News, Burnaby.
Now, when you go to the butcher's, you may have seen that image of a cow with all of the different meat cuts, like chuck and rib and sirloin on it. Well, it just may be time to update that image. Joining us now is Christopher Lamb. He's the chef and owner of Straight and Marrow. Hello there.
Hi, Gloria. How are you today?
I'm terrific, thank you. Now, Christopher, you're pretty serious about your meat cuts there at Straight and Marrow, but you think a little bit outside of the traditional box, don't you?
Yeah, a little bit, I'd say. I tend to eat enjoy a lot of cuts that some people find a little bit weird, but I'm trying to show people that they're pretty good.
Okay, weird like how?
So one dish we have is a beef heart tartare. So we use the beef heart instead of a traditional beef tenderloin or a sirloin even. We also have a sweetbread dish, and I use a lamb sweetbread. Traditionally, it is a veal sweetbread. And sweetbread is just a thymus and a pancreas gland on an animal. So we're just playing around with weird things like that.
Well, okay, you mentioned that it's something that you enjoy, but where did this whole approach come from?
Honestly, from my just childhood and Asian background, we have a philosophy not to waste anything that we ever have. And not only do we not waste it, I find that we find ways to make it very delicious and actually like almost delicacies. And so I'm trying to bring that approach to just normal dining.
Okay, and just how difficult is it to source ingredients like that?
Oh, it's been a little bit of a struggle. Like even right now, the lamb sweetbreads is on a 2-week kind of, special order time. So I'm trying to do my best to get it. I can get veal sweetbreads, but not lamb sweetbreads. And I've also been working on a dish dealing with pigtails, and that has been a very difficult challenge to procure. So.
Okay. Now, you've been in the restaurant business for 12 years. You're classically trained, but I'd love to just see you at work there. You were talking about this unconventional tartare. Why don't you take us through it?
Sure. So we just have beef heart right here. So I've just blanched it in beef stock, then blanched it into an ice bath and cubed it up. Get it as fresh as you can. And we will add this in to a mixing bowl here. This is about 50 grams of beef heart that I just prepped this morning.
All pre-measured. That's very convenient.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then we're looking at, this is just a bit of aioli, which we made this morning as well. It's about half a teaspoon. And that's not really a very traditional thing that French people would put into their tartares, but I personally like it a lot.
So the aioli is like a garlic mayonnaise, sort of.
Yes, it's just made with olive oil instead of canola oil, but technically mayonnaise is fine. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
And then we have a mix here that is Castelvetrano olives, anchovies, and capers, and a little bit of red wine vinegar, just to give it a little bit of richness and acidity. So full tablespoon here, or teaspoon, sorry. And then we have a little bit of fresh chives and a little bit of salt. And that's it. It's very simple. Mix it together.
What do you serve that with?
So we just like to serve it with crostinis. Any sort of bread is fine. I think that, I personally can eat tartare by itself, but it's a little bit weird for some people.
Well, okay, let's talk about what could be a little bit weird for some people. I mean, do you find that some people come in and say, oh my God, I don't know if I can go there? I mean, do you have to do any convincing, or have you already got a captive audience? What have you been finding?
I find that some things that we have on the menu are a little bit odd. The sweetbreads especially, it's a pretty normal thing for me and a lot of people I know, but I find that I've been saying a lot, try it first and then I'll tell you what it is later. And if you know what I mean? So if you like it, you like it. If not, we'll see. Then I'll tell you what you just said.
Okay, so you want to go back to your plating there? What are you putting on now?
So this is just a smoked paprika aioli. So it's a little bit of cayenne pepper, smoked paprika, aioli, lemon juice, and salt. It's just I'm doing more of a Spanish style tartare here, more than a French style.
Oh, just little dots. You don't want to overpower the flavors there.
No, it's got a little bit of kick to it. So that's something that we've been kind of playing around with. And then here we have just a little bit of crispy sunchokes. So sunchokes are Jerusalem artichokes. They're like the bulb of sunflowers.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So I mean,
it all seems just so interesting, and certainly something we're not used to. So what are, the flavors and textures that you're really, eager to share with a broader audience?
Well, I think the main thing with this dish is that I find that beef heart is extremely beefy. A lot of people use beef tenderloin for their tartares, and so, you actually lose a lot of beef flavor for the tenderness because it hasn't developed the muscle. So I just want to show that, this is a fraction of the cost of any other tartare you'll have in the city, and you can make it yourself at home very easily. Butchers will gladly give you some beef heart if you ask for it. And yeah, it's just, try different things.
Nice.
But we're going for a very balanced dish here. I'm trying to do my best to ease the patrons into eating, beef heart, so it's not too gamey or too strong. And I'm just putting a little bit of sun-dried tomato here.
Oh, I love that. I love that it looks so delicate how you're plating that with the little details and the different color combinations. It's really gorgeous. It's a beautiful dish.
And then here I'm just going to add a couple radishes to give it a little bit of freshness.
You're going to have all kinds of textures in your mouth when you dip into that with the crostini too.
Yes, exactly.
And
Balance.
It looks absolutely gorgeous. That's a tartare like I have never seen before.
And then one last thing, I like to garnish it with, I have this, which is a cured egg yolk. So I cure it in salt and sugar for about 6 weeks. And then it has the texture of cheese. It actually tastes very much like Parmesan cheese. And I just like to microplane a little bit of that over it.
Wow, it even grates like cheese. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as cheese. And that's it. We eat it with a couple crostinis, and it's pretty simple.
Christopher, that is a work of art, I have to say. You sound like a straight and narrow kind of guy, and we wish you all the best with Straight and Marrow there on Powell Street. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Gloria.
We are now under a state of emergency here in BC. That declaration came from the provincial government last week.
A lot of us have been streaming more films since COVID-19 hit. The National Film Board has launched The Curve, featuring videos by 40 Canadian creators touched by the pandemic. 60-Day Cycle features a lone cyclist riding through the streets of Vancouver, and quite prominently, the voice of CBC Radio Early Edition host Stephen Quinn. So for more information, go to nfb.ca/the-curve. To watch 60-Day Cycle, click on Body and Soul.
And it was always interesting with my dad because he worked for some of the biggest extractive companies. He worked for Shell designing LNG. He worked for Macmillan Bloedel. I was talking about that with my mom the other day because we were talking, I was like, well, what was it? Like, he was such a nature lover. How could he work in these industries that are, in a sense, destroying the very places he loved? He loved the outdoors, but he loved his family even more.
There's a new CBC documentary about Tamil Campos, a BC snowboarder, environmental activist, and David Suzuki's grandson. It's called Rutsu, and it's streaming on CBC Gem right now. That's RU-TSU on CBC Gem.
Hey, I'm Grant Lawrence, coming to you from home with a wicked new song from a long-running indie band originally out of Kelowna, BC, called Yukon Blonde. They've called Vancouver home for years. Before I play you the new song, let's mine some of their older tracks. From their Juno-nominated breakout album Tiger Talk from 2012, that was Yukon Blonde with the awesome song Stairway. That video featuring the band's friendly guitarist Brandon Scott. In 2015, Yukon Blonde followed it up with a record called On Blonde, which featured this surreal, big-budget cinematic video for the absolutely thumping song, I Wanna Be Your Man. Check it out. Okay, I still can't really figure out what is going on in that video all these years later, but it still looks and sounds amazing. And now in the summer of 2020, some 15 years after first forming, Yukon Blonde is back with another great song that is currently rocketing up this CBC Music Top 20. It's a funky indie tune called Get Precious. Okay, so with everything else going on right now, if you find yourself in the middle of a breakup this summer that isn't going so well, just send your ex-partner that song and let it do the talking, or the singing, as it were. That is Yukon Blonde with Get Precious, and that is the song that you need to add to your summer staycation playlist for this week, because long-running professional bands like Yukon Blonde need your support now more than ever before. I'm Grant Lawrence. Keep Canadian music alive, stay safe, and I'll check in with you again next week. Turn it up, too.
Coming up, Ivan Coyote shares their experience with people using the wrong gender pronouns and offers some emotional advice for children. Hi, welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. When Vancouver ER nurse Anna Trowbridge has free time, she likes to sketch. So we asked if she would share some of them with us and reflect on the experiences of frontline workers during this pandemic.
My name is Anna Roth Trowbridge, and I work as an emergency nurse at one of Vancouver's busiest hospitals. I doodle on the side. COVID-19 has changed how healthcare workers think about our roles and our workplaces. It is a strange thing to be praised for bravery while stewing in fear. The first time I heard the sounds of the applause and the cacophony of pots and pans rippling across False Creek, I sat down in the grass and cried. My coworkers and I flocked to the sidewalk in front of Vancouver General Hospital at 7 p.m. to reciprocate the cheer, many of us fogging up our goggles. The acknowledgement of our collective stress and efforts was a wave of validation that fully strengthened our resolve. Hospitals have always felt like home to me. My parents both worked as caseworkers in child psychiatry at the Jewish General Hospital in Montreal. On days off from school, I enjoyed participating in art therapy groups led by my father. And later, my family and I were constant visitors when my dad became a cancer patient. I've come to understand that healthcare does not serve the population equally, that many people do not receive the care they need, and that it's because of my privilege and my family's story that the frequent alarms and the familiar palette of the hospital are actually symbols of safety to me. As an ER nurse, I try to bring my own sense of safety to my interactions with patients and families in crisis. Those of us who work in the emergency room stay calm through the act of providing care. We start IVs, cut off clothes, make eye contact, provide reassurance. Up until the pandemic, I didn't fully understand how much comfort and stability I derived from caring for others. Then the first wave of COVID-19 arrived in Vancouver. It undermined the safety of our healthcare system and the hospital. We started wearing personal protective equipment during all patient contact. It's very challenging to communicate safety through a mask and goggles without family members present, with so much emphasis on infection control. We retrained our brains to prioritize personal protection before jumping in to attend to the emergent needs of our patients. And suddenly, the hospital did not feel so safe. I was consumed by fear of transmitting the virus from patients to loved ones and vice versa. It's really hard for me to imagine doing what nurses around the world have been doing for months now. And that is providing care without proper PPE, knowing that your vulnerability to the virus will put others in danger. Watching people dying in horrifying numbers, watching coworkers die from COVID-19. These so-called frontliners are assuming risks well beyond what they initially signed up for, well beyond what they are compensated for. I am scared of calling people heroes with the assumption that they will bravely accept the risk now associated with their jobs. I'm scared of the pressure that we are putting on essential workers to overcome their fears through our choice of language and the stories we are telling. Here in Vancouver, those of us working in high-risk areas have experienced measured relief as we watch the numbers drop, as new protocols seem to effectively control transmission within the hospitals. We have the capacity to make light of the fashion opportunities born out of the pandemic and to enjoy solidarity and pizza among the staff. Our team has been strengthened by our collective resolve to protect one another and our patients. And we have learned to work together in new and exciting ways. COVID-19 has highlighted a lot of the holes and inequities in our system. It has also taught a lot of us on the front line about the impact a threat to personal safety has on one's ability to function. Feeling like I am cared for by my team, by the public, and by my community made me want to care for others more than ever before. Thank you, everyone out there, for your tremendous show of support. Keep talking to your loved ones about their wishes and what they need to feel safe, and let's keep taking care.
Ivan Coyote is a prolific local storyteller, creator of many books and films and stage shows and albums. Now, in this story for CBC Arts' Queer Pride Inside, they share what goes through their mind when they're referred to by the wrong gender.
So I got my hair cut at the barber this morning for the first time in like 4 months. And I'm not sure if it's the gray in my hair now, or if it was my long bangs, or these banging 51-year-old hips, or if it's because I took up skipping rope in the driveway every day to get us through this pandemic. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I've never been ladied as much as I have been in like the last 3 months. I'm being mercilessly mammed over here, and I try not to let it wear away at the truth of me too much. I try to take my own advice about it. I remember a couple of years back, I was in Singapore, and I did this gig, and this kid asked me after how I cope emotionally with being misgendered, like pretty much all the time. And they were a thin wisp of a kid in their first year of college and tender all over, I could tell. Tucked into an armchair in the multi-purpose room on campus, wearing a scarf pulled up around their chin and mouth and hiding wing-like shoulder blades and collarbones under an oversized jean jacket, even in all that heat and humidity. And I realized, as I was saying it out loud, that I try to be impervious now to someone using the wrong pronoun for me. I tell myself it is an irritant at best, like a black fly behind my ear when I'm trying to put a fish hook on my line. It's not even a mosquito, and certainly not capable of taking any of my flesh like a horsefly could. I notice it, but it is easily swatted and crushed. It does not touch me inside in any way, I tell myself, and simply gives me intel on the person who is speaking to or about me. It helps me categorize the speaker, no more, no less. Friend, ally, stranger, unhip layperson, oblivious cis, lazy host, or intentional foe. All good to know. I tell myself all of these things. But it's hard to see a kid in pain like that. You know, it's important to say just the right thing when asked a question like that. But sometimes there really isn't a perfect thing to say. What I really wanted this kid to know is that they are going to need to somehow build up the calluses around their heart just a little. That they cannot and should not ever give up their power so easily to another, shouldn't put any shred of their own self-worth into the sloppy hands of a stranger or anyone. I told them I would fight with words and deeds every day to dismantle this system that disappears so many of us from inside of every sentence aimed our way. I'm pretty sure I stumbled through my imperfect answer to that kid that day, and I know that I prefaced it with a disclaimer, something to the effect of, I can only ever speak for myself. I wish I had told them to stand up full inside of themselves and imagine that they are protected by a full suit of shimmering armor made of feathers, made of sequins, made of the 600 skins they've already had to shed just to become what they are right now in this minute. I wish I had told them to live inside their feathered armor skin with such surety and self-love that who they really are inside could never be shaken by any words stuck to or shot at them from outside of themselves ever. Not ever. Never. No way. This morning I put on my tights with the trans flags on both shins, and I picked up my neon orange skipping rope and headed out onto our little stretch of concrete in the sun. Out back, the neighbor from up the street slowed his big truck right down to a roll and lowered his tinted window halfway to speak to my partner and I, like he does some days for some reason. I can't believe you ladies can jump like that in this heat, he said. So I regarded him from inside of my armor skin, and I ruffled my feathers just a little so I looked bigger and I could skip higher. And then I did 3 double unders in a row without even breaking a sweat. My new name is Sir Never Sirred. Pleased to meet you.
Coming up, BC psychologist Dr. Carlton Duff is back to answer more questions about kids' mental health during the... Hi, welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now, as school approaches, a lot of children have questions about COVID-19, and BC psychologist Dr. Carlton Duff can address their concerns when it comes to mental health. Here he is once again, speaking with CBC Kids News contributor Elijah Sandiford.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Elijah for CBC Kids News, and welcome to our Kids News virtual studio. Hey everyone! We've asked kids across the country if the pandemic has been making them feel sad, stressed, or scared, and to submit any questions they had about it to us. To answer those questions, I'm back with Dr. Carlton Duff. He has his own VR headset right now in British Columbia. Do you think kids' stress levels have gone up in the past few months during this pandemic?
That's a great question, Elijah, and the answer is almost certainly. It's been really tough for a lot of kids being stuck at home and being away from their family and their friends. Those are the kinds of things that actually help us feel better and reduce our stress, so not having them around has made things a lot harder.
What exactly are we talking about when we say stressed?
Usually when we're saying stress, we mean that we're feeling a kind of sense of pressure, but also a little bit afraid that something bad might happen. So really, stress is almost like the same as the word we use to describe anxiety.
If kids are feeling stressed or overwhelmed, what are some things kids can do to help feel better?
The first thing is to make sure that they're getting enough exercise. We've done lots and lots of research on how to help kids overcome stress over the last 50 years, and we found that exercise is one of the biggest things to help protect yourself from feeling stressed. It also helps you feel better when you're feeling stressed.
Thanks, Dr. Duff. Let's take a look at the screen behind us to see our next question.
As we maintain social distancing, what are some safe activities that may help reduce stress and anxiety?
Well, Elijah, let me show you what I think kids can do in our visualization room.
Awesome, let's check it out.
See, Elijah, it looks like we're outside in this room, doesn't it? And what's really neat about forests is that there's so much to do. Just like I said to you before, it's really important to be able to exercise and spend time with your family and friends as much as you can. And doing it outside is a great way to do that. That still allows you to stay safe.
Yeah, it's really peaceful in here.
You know what? This is actually a really good opportunity for kids to get used to not knowing how things are going to be. Sometimes we can feel afraid of not knowing how things are going to go. And that makes sense that we feel that way. But the truth is that it's not actually dangerous to not know. I think what kids can do when they have questions like this is they can talk to their family and their friends about it, but also maybe just spend some time sitting and letting themselves feel a little bit uncomfortable about not knowing and not really having the answer.
Check out our next video for more question and answers with Dr. Duff. I'm Elijah Sandyford for CBC Kids News. Peace.
Okay, time to rewind the clock with the help of our CBC Archives. It was a 24-year-old mystery about a small plane from BC that crashed in a lake and the pilot who went missing. After all those years, investigators found that man in 2006. Here is Alan Waterman, who brought us that story.
For 2 decades, no one's been able to figure it out. How a plane from Canada ended up in a lake in Montana. And what happened to its pilot? The airplane took off from Penticton, apparently bound for Vancouver, but the plane crashed in Little Bitterroot Lake, hundreds of kilometers off course. Inside was the body of 18-year-old Diane Babcock of Trail, BC, still wearing her seatbelt. Her boyfriend, 19-year-old Jerry Ambrosic, had disappeared. Soon after, there were sightings and phone calls he made to this friend back home in BC, but nothing more, until now. Jerry Ambrosic has surfaced in Plano, Texas. He was arrested Monday after he told a friend in Texas his true identity. She called police.
When the detectives first got this information and investigated it, they were very surprised that this was indeed the individual that everyone's been looking for.
For the last 6 years, Ambrosic has lived in an upscale neighborhood, run a software company from his home, driven an expensive sports car, all under the name Michael Lee Smith.
Never got a chance to get to know him. He never seemed to act like he really wanted to, get to know us.
I was got a little bit overwhelmed when I got the tip on Monday.
Sheriff Jim DuPont was a detective in 1982. He was at the crash scene. He tracked Ambrosic for months to New York and Texas, then lost him. Ambrosic was featured twice on America's Most Wanted. DuPont never forgot the case, never forgot listening to the recordings of Ambrosic's phone calls back home.
He was relating certain things about the crash, about how he couldn't get her out of the airplane. And none of that was adding up in my mind. For instance, he said the seatbelt was jammed, and I took her out of the airplane, and it certainly wasn't jammed.
DuPont retires at the end of the year with one of his biggest mysteries, the whereabouts of Jerry Ambrosic, now solved.
But I would come back in a heartbeat to work this particular case, and now I wouldn't have to do that.
Prosecutors hope to extradite Ambrosic to Montana to face negligent homicide charges. They also hope he will tell them exactly why he's remained under the radar for 24 years. Alan Waterman, CBC News, Vancouver.
CBC Vancouver is so fortunate to have an award-winning photographer on staff. Ben Nelms captures all sorts of images of life in our city. Here are some of his best of the week. And that's all for Our Vancouver for this week. I hope you'll be able to join me weekday afternoons on CBC Radio 1 for On the Coast. Goodbye for now.